young, beautiful woman meets a hairy weirdo and falls in love, lifting a generational curse. A tale as old as time. The fairy tale of Beauty and the Beast is an iconic story known by everyone since Disney's 1991 adaptation. It's classic, it's timeless, and it's enchanted generations with its message of inner beauty and transformative love. From living household items to gothic elements to disturbing power dynamics, beneath the surface of this beloved story lie dark and disturbing elements, especially in its early versions. So let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny here, and today we have another spooky, disturbing story about dark nostalgia, this time about the dark history of Beauty and the Beast. But before we get into today's video, please make sure that you are subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please make sure that you like and share this video. Share this video with your yoga class. Put this video on in the background and let people align their chakras to Kenny's spooky tales. Before Disney's animated film and the countless adaptations afterwards, Beauty and the Beast existed in various forms across different cultures and time periods. One of the earliest known versions is the Roman myth of Cupid and Psyche. This tale features elements that would be later echoed in the Beauty and the Beast fairy tales, such as the monstrous bridegroom and trials that test the protagonist's love. While the Cupid and Psyche myth provide an early example of the animal motif, the story of Beauty and the Beast as we know it began to take shape in the 18th century. It's important to note that the Beauty and the Beast story type belongs to a broader category of folktales known as the animal bridegroom and search for the lost husband narratives. These tales are found in various cultures worldwide and often feature a female protagonist who is forced to marry or cohabitate with a creature that is initially perceived as monstrous. The protagonist then embarks on a journey of acceptance and transformation, ultimately discovering the humanity or hidden nobility within the beastly figure. I feel like a lot of women are forced to undergo those transformative journeys even today. In 1740, Gabrielle Suzanne Barau de Villenueve published her novel La Belle et la Bête. This version introduced the key elements like the beast's enchanted castle, the curse that binds him in his beastly body, and the transformative power of Beauty's love. Villenueve's Beauty and the Beast also incorporated elements from the search for the lost husband motif, as Beauty must unravel the mystery of Beast's curse and help him regain his true form. 16 years later, Jean-Marie Leprince de Beaumont published a simplified and abridged version of Villeneuve's tale. I know I'm absolutely nailing these French pronunciations right now. You can congratulate me in the comments. Beaumont's version was intended for a younger audience, and it streamlined the narrative and focused on the moral lessons of the story. However, the reasons behind Beaumont's adaptation are debated among literary scholars. Some believe it was a straightforward attempt to make the story more accessible to children. Others suggest it intended to promote acceptance of arranged marriages, particularly those involving young women and older men. Later adaptations often emphasize the romantic and heartwarming aspects of the story, but the early versions of Beauty and the Beast contains elements that are undeniably dark and disturbing. For example, forced captivity and coercion. Villeneuve's original tale portrays Beast as a truly monstrous figure with a terrifying appearance and volatile temper. He demands Beauty's hand in marriage and threatens her father with death if she refuses. Nice guy. The element of coercion and forced captivity casts a shadow over the seemingly romantic narrative. I mean, what's more romantic than threatening to murder your dad if you don't marry some guy? The Beast Castle is a gilded cage for Beauty, a symbol of confinement and her own lack of agency. The beast's behavior in all versions, really, can be interpreted as emotionally abusive. He isolates Beauty in his castle, controls her access to the outside world, and punishes her for disobedience. In some tellings, he threatens to starve her if she does not comply with his wishes. These aspects of the story certainly raise questions about the nature of consent and potentially romanticizing abusive, toxic relationships. Beyond the beast's behavior, early versions of the story go into themes of incest and sexual predation. In Villenueve's tale, the beast is cursed by his stepmother, who desires him and seeks to marry him. This element adds a disturbing psychological complexity to the story and highlights dark undercurrents of desire and power that are lurking in this fairy tale. Another dark element present in early versions of Beauty and the Beast is the fatal request trope. This trope involves a seemingly innocuous request that leads to unforeseen and often disastrous consequences. In Beauty and the Beast, it is Beauty's request for a rose that sets the tragic events in motion. Her father, attempting to fulfill her wish, steals a rose from the Beast's garden, leading to his capture and Beauty's subsequent imprisonment. This element highlights the dangers of unchecked desire and the unintended consequences that can arise from seemingly harmless actions. It also brings in discussion of punishment and generational punishment, generations having to pay for the sins of their fathers. Literally, Beauty had to pay for the sin of her father. Adding to the darkness of Villenueve's original tale is the details of the beast's unaliving attempts. Driven to despair by the belief that he will never be freed from his curse or find love, the beast attempts to take his own life. This act of desperation further emphasizes the psychological turmoil and the profound sense of isolation that the beast experiences. Beauty and the Beast is a product of folklore and literary tradition. Oral folklore. It's a story that was passed down from generation to generation until it was written down and then interpreted in various manners. There are scholars that believe that the tale may have been inspired by real-life figures and events. One theory points to Petrus Gonsalvus, a man born in Tenerife in 1537 with hypertrichosis, a condition that caused excessive hair growth all over his body. Gonsalvus was presented as a wild man to King Henry II of France and became a curiosity in the royal court. King Henry arranged for Gonsalvus to marry a beautiful woman named Catherine, hoping to study the offspring of this unusual pairing. He wanted them to have kids so he could study the offspring. This is why kings are bad. While the Gonsalvus family story differs from the fairy tale, the parallels between a hairy beast and a beautiful woman are striking. This real-life example may have contributed to the development and popularization of the Beauty and the Beast narrative. And let's be real, as someone who could be interpreted as a hairy beast, I find this narrative exploitive. The Beauty and the Beast story has resonated across cultures and continents. It's found throughout the world. These versions often incorporated unique cultural elements and explored different aspects of the animal bridegroom and search for lost husband motifs. In France, tales like The White Wolf and Belle Rose offer variations on this narrative. Italy has a rich tradition of Beauty and the Beast variants, including the singing, dancing, and music-making Leaf from Trentino, the Empress Rosino from Palermo, and Belinda from Montel and Abruzzo. Spain has The King's Son, Disenchanted, and The Bear Prince. Portugal has A Bella Menina. Belgium and the Netherlands, Rose Without Thorns. And Central Europe has The Summer and Winter Garden. These variants of this story demonstrate both the enduring appeal of the Beauty and the Beast story and the way that folklore manages to find its way throughout the world. Over time, the story of Beauty and the Beast has undergone significant transformations. The dark and disturbing aspects presented in early versions have been toned down or removed in later adaptations, particularly those for children. The beast's appearance has become less monstrous, his behavior has become less threatening, and the themes of coercion and abuse have been largely replaced with romantic tropes and happily ever after endings. This evolution reflects the changing cultural sensibilities and the desire to present a more palatable and morally acceptable story for younger audiences. It comes down to the idea of teaching morals and societal norms through storytelling to children. You can debate whether that's a good thing or not. One of the most significant changes in later adaptations, particularly Disney's version, is the removal of the element of consent. In earlier versions, Beauty actively chooses to sacrifice herself for her father and gradually develops feelings for the beast. Disney's Belle is portrayed as a captive who is initially terrified of the beast and only comes to love him after he softens his behavior. This change seemingly makes the story more appropriate for children, but diminishes Belle's agency and romanticizes the beast's initial captivity of Belle. So while it might be more appropriate on its face for children, it's instilling some very disturbing and toxic behavior as normal to children. As you can imagine, Disney's Beauty and the Beast is significantly changed from earlier versions of the fairy tale. Disney's animated film and the live-action remake primarily draw from Beaumont's version, but also incorporate elements and changes. In Villenueve's Beauty and the Beast's curse is deeply rooted in a complex backstory. He is a prince raised by a fairy after his father's death. The fairy, who becomes like a second mother, later tries to seduce him as he reaches adulthood. When he refuses her advances because of her age and unattractiveness, she, in her anger, curses him to become a beast. The curse is designed to be very difficult to break with many stipulations. In Beaumont's version, the curse is simplified. A wicked fairy curses the prince to become a beast until a beautiful maiden agrees to marry him in his beastly form. Disney's animated and live-action remake, the curse is a consequence of the prince's own arrogance and selfishness. He refuses to shelter an old beggar woman who's secretly an enchantress because of her haggard appearance. As punishment for his lack of compassion and for judging by appearances, she transforms him into a beast and his servants into household objects. The enchantress gives him a magical rose and warns him that the curse will only be lifted if he learns to love another and earn her love in return before the last petal falls. The live-action film expands on this by showing the prince as a spoiled and cruel young man in a lavish party at his castle when the enchantress arrives. In the Villenueve version, Belle is the youngest daughter of a wealthy merchant and has a large family. 6 brothers and 5 sisters. Her brothers adore her, while her sisters are spoiled and jealous. The family faces financial ruin when their house burns down and the merchant ships are lost at sea. Beauty becomes responsible for much of the housework while her spoiled sisters refuse to adjust to reduced circumstances. In the Beaumont version, Belle has 2 older wicked sisters who are jealous of her virtue and kindness. She also has brothers, but they are less emphasized than the sisters. In Disney's animated film, Belle is an only child. Her mother is absent, and no explanation is given for her absence. In Disney's live-action remake, it gives Belle a more detailed backstory. Both of Belle's parents play a role, and it's revealed that Belle's mother died of the plague in Paris, which prompted her father to flee with Belle to the village, adding depth to Belle's character and the relationship with her father. Belle is also an only child in the live version. In the Villenueve version, the primary antagonist is the evil fairy who cursed the beast. A good fairy intervenes and ultimately imprisons the evil fairy in fairyland. There is no Gaston. In the Beaumont version, Beauty's jealous sisters are the main antagonists. A good fairy punishes them at the end by turning them into statues as a consequence for their wickedness. Again, no Gaston. In the Disney versions, Gaston is created as a primary antagonist. He is a narcissistic and aggressively macho hunter. He represents a superficial and toxic form of masculinity, contrasting with the beast's inner goodness. And I have to say, the whole thing about him eating 12 eggs a day has always sort of stuck with me while he just sort of gulps down eggs. I always thought that was really weird. Especially now that eggs are really expensive. But even then, I eat 12 eggs a day, 24 eggs a day to get totally ripped like this. I don't know. It's too many eggs. It's bad for your digestion, I'm sure. I love eggs, but in the Villenueve version, Beauty requests a rose as a gift from her father. He plucks a rose from the beast's garden, leading to the beast's initial threat. The rose itself doesn't have any time-sensitive magical property. In the Beaumont version, which is similar to the Villenueve version, Beauty asks for a rose and her father takes one from the beast's garden and initiates the conflict. In the Disney film and the live-action remake, the rose becomes a central symbol and a plot device. It acts as a magical timer, with the beast needing to break the curse before the last petal falls. This adds urgency and suspense to the Disney narrative. The live-action remake also calls back to the original role of the rose by showing Belle's father picking it and triggering the beast's anger. I think the rose as a plot device is sort of toxic in itself also. I think it sort of teaches people this idea that there is some sort of timing element to finding your person or finding the person that you love. And I think that instilling that sort of ideal in children is problematic and probably causes a lot of people to rush into relationships. In the Villenueve version, despite his monstrous form, the beast in the novel is portrayed as a more refined and well-behaved from the beginning. In the Villenueve version, despite being monstrous, the beast is portrayed as more refined and well-behaved from the beginning. He sends Beauty's father home with treasure and allows Beauty considerable freedom among the castle. He gives her a magic mirror that allows her to see anything that she wishes. In the Beaumont version, the beast is eager to break his curse, and each night asks Belle to marry him. He is also presented as relatively gentle, although his monstrous appearance is frightening. In the Disney versions, the beast is initially ill-mannered, short-tempered, and has to learn to be kind and considerate throughout his relationship with Belle. His character arc involves significant personal growth and learning to control his temper and show empathy. The Disney beast has to mature and become a better person to earn Belle's love. The Villenueve novel explores a more complex dynamic between Belle and the beast with elements of a courtly romance and lengthy dialogues. There's also a love triangle introduced later in the story involving a prince who is the beast's human form and another suitor for Belle. In the Beaumont version, the story focuses on moral lessons and virtue. The romance is simpler and serves to highlight Belle's inner virtue and the beast's redemption. In the Disney version, the romantic love story is central to the narrative. The Stockholm Syndrome critique has been raised regarding Belle's feelings for the beast in the animated film, though the live-action remake attempts to address some of these concerns by making Belle more active and giving her more agency. Like most folklore, the dark and disturbing aspects of early Beauty and the Beast versions offer valuable insight into the psychological and cultural anxieties of the time of that story. Similarly, the evolution to the Disney version show the way that our societal and cultural norms have changed and the ways that we have changed stories to teach children about morals and good character, as well as aspects of our culture and things that we wish to see from other people. It's still wild and disturbing to break down these stories, even the Disney versions of these stories, and realize just how disturbing they are and the fact that they are focused towards children. Normalizing these types of power dynamics, these types of toxic relationships for children who are in their formative years, just learning about how to have relationships with people can lead to keeping those types of ideals in adulthood. One of the main functions of storytelling is to serve as a mirror for our society and for us to learn how to be people. Looking at this story from a psychological perspective, you can see that this is a way that certain types of toxicity, certain types of toxic masculinity, patriarchy, etc., are passed down to younger people. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Please like and share this video. Make sure that you're following me on Blue Sky and TikTok. My username is akbrews. Please make sure that you are following me on Twitter as well. My username is akbrews there also. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you would like me to cover, please send me an email, My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. In the YouTube toolbar, there is a super thanks button. If you would like to make a donation to the channel, click the super thanks button and make a donation. I would appreciate that. Any money that goes into this video or any money that is donated to this channel, any money that this channel makes is going to go back into the channel. And we have a lot of exciting ideas that we are going to do as the weather gets nicer this spring and summer. I appreciate you supporting me by watching my videos and sharing my videos. It means a lot to me. And I'm floored by the amount of support I get from all of you. So thank you. And of course, I want you to remember to stay spooky.